Bingo.
Let's go.
So, Effy, every time we obviously interview somebody, we always start with the simple question is, if you could sum your career up in one word with everything you've done so far, how would you describe it?
Unexpected. That's a great question to start out. I think, I look at kind of in wrestling, your personal life sometimes goes by the wayside a little bit with wrestling. And I kind of have had this conversation with partners and exes about how I didn't really mean to do this. Like when I started wrestling, I really just wanted to like have a match or be booked on a show. And, your goals get bigger as that time goes on. And then you kind of look up and you're like, oh, damn, I'm like doing the thing. And, it's very unexpected that I've been as, many places as I've been, that I've gotten to wrestle as much as I've gotten to wrestle. And starting out, in such a, I don't want to say backwards, but in kind of an old school scene in the American South, I didn't expect someone like me to kind of make it through. And I think maybe approaching it with so little expectation helped me kind of, just not limit myself or not limit the decisions of what I thought wrestling was, and kind of keep playing with the concept of wrestling that ended up, in my opinion, bringing a lot more people into wrestling. Not having the expectation of where my career should go, I think sort of let it go anywhere. And when you do that, you open yourself up to a lot more opportunities. So unexpected for sure, because I would not imagine, what am I? It's 2025. It's the end of 2025. So this is going to be my 7th year full time that I'm entering next year, and then my 12th year of in-ring competition. And I haven't stopped wrestling, since I started. And I've been blessed enough to not have a lot of injuries, but to ask me the day I started wrestling training with White Trash Fred in Live Oak, Florida, are you going to be doing this in 12 years? The answer would have been absolutely probably not. This was something I was doing to kind of work through some stuff. I had quit drinking. I was, getting off of doing drugs. I had a lot of free time on my hands, outside of the job I was working. And so what kind of started as a hobby, I think, this year on the PWI 500, it's a list made by people. So people can say what they want, but to be ranked number 42 out of 500 in the world, for me, I didn't think that was something that was ever going to happen. And more than ever, especially as like we're getting into a bit of a recessive time, people are having less extra money to spend on entertainment. It motivates me even more to figure out like what's the next step of where wrestling goes, what's the next step of what we do as wrestlers to perform, because I've been through enough tough times in this and stuck with it to know like, hey, it is a roller coaster, it is a lot of up and down, and something looking difficult or times looking difficult means you just need to ramp it up even more, because that's probably the time people need, more access to entertainment and fun. So I'm going to keep doing whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to keep, I guess, just being Effy, because that's worked so far.
I mean, one breezy, you can't get a better answer than that, right?
Definitely not.
I'm a talker, if you guys aren't going to figure it out, where like I will expand on an answer until I feel like I've wasted all my breath. So if you ever want to cut in and, ask something in the middle, you're not going to offend me. Trust me.
Okay.
I respect that.
No, I do really appreciate that. But one breezy, do you want to kick us off?
What is the origins of the name Effy? Where did that come from?
So the origins and the way the meaning has changed over the years, I think is fascinating to me, because once again, a long answer. I started it out and I wanted to pick a name that was biblical. Both of my grandparents were pastors in their church. I grew up in a very Christian household. And so as I was kind of figuring out this version of myself that like at the time was a heel and was bad, and like I used to be real poke the bear with a lot of these Southern fans. And, I was coming into my own as someone who was figuring out my sexuality. I was kind of getting to use this platform to, lash out a little bit at people for having the opinions they have in the South. And, pulling a wet dollar bill out of my trunks and throwing it at a man and saying, go get me a drink, I'm thirsty, and getting to do that in an environment where all of these people I know are probably church-going people who wouldn't necessarily vote for my rights. I wanted to have something that was biblical. So the name Ephraim, Ephraim in the Bible, it means bearing much fruit, like he who bears fruit, he who is fruitful. And I thought, okay, well, I'm pretty fruity. This makes sense. So I shortened that to sound even more feminine so that it was Effy. And then as that's kind of changed and merged as time has gone on, I did an interview around the time of the first Hammerstein show where the New Yorker printed after asking me, I was like stoned at brunch a few years ago, and they were like, what does Effy stand for? And I said, it means electric, fantastic, and fuck you. It's an acronym. And so then the editor of the New Yorker called me back and said, hey, we just want to confirm this. And he said that you said Effy stands for electric, fantastic, fuck you. And I said, this is the funniest phone call I've ever gotten. This is the editor of a major publication having to call me to go like, is this what we print? And I said, absolutely, print it. So that was printed in the New Yorker. So I started telling people it means electric, fantastic, fuck you. But then I've started explaining a lot of my matches, especially when I'm working with someone new, where it is also an acronym that means either fucking or fighting you. And there's a moment in a lot of Effy matches where, whether it's me going to my knees or me setting myself up for a kiss or something, where the determination is made that we are either fucking or fighting. So when I'm showing up to the ring, I'm giving you the option of like, we can either be lovers or we can be fighters. I need to know from you because I'm not going to, cast the first stone. And so if you watch an Effy match, there's usually a moment somewhere in that match where you can tell I'm sort of asking the question, are we either fucking or fighting you? And when you answer that we are fighting, the vibe switches and it gets more intense and it gets crazier. So the Effy name has kind of like merged over the years to mean a lot of different things, but it's always sort of made sense in my head for what I'm doing. And like, I don't ever feel like as a performer, I have to be Effy. I feel more so that like I am Effy and whatever I do is the character Effy. And to have a few rules set into that of like how this character approaches itself, but also be completely unrestricted and like, I will explain to you, and it goes back to wrestling psychology. I can wrestling psychology explain anything to you. There was a match a long time ago where me and Mance were stapling our tongues together. And I went to the back and there was a kind of a veteran who was like, it doesn't make any damn sense. Y'all are supposed to be fighting each other. Why would you do that? And at this time we were not in a blood feud. And I said, well, he's my best friend and he's fighting me now. But if I staple us together, we'll be kissing forever. And that made sense to me. And so like to have to go through your career, and I see a lot of guys do it, where instead of doing actions and then explaining why their character would do them, they're explaining to themselves what their character would do and then doing the actions. And I just think that's restricting. And the Effy name merging and changing with what I need it to be is kind of an indicator that like, I'm still Effy. I've been Effy the whole time, but Effy is a thing that is constantly changing. And when I get in the ring, when I don't have the championship, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, but before that, I don't have any nicknames. I don't tell you who I am. I don't tell you my height, my weight, or my hometown. I just say, and I have the person say, this is Effy. And I stole that from Elvis because he stole everything from everyone. This is Effy. And what you're seeing in front of you today and this match and this moment, whatever it may be, whatever mood I may be in, whatever match I may be having, this is Effy. And so I think like that helps people understand that like it's Effy is with me, but it can be anything I need it to be.
Interesting.
I'm going to follow on obviously from that. Did you ever think that the name would be as popular as it is today?
No, I actually thought I'd have more trouble with the name because WWF and WWE, and I've kind of explained that to people too, where it's like FE, or hearing Southern people be like, Effy, he's a little iffy, ain't he? And I think it was something where like, I don't think I knew anything could be as popular as it was. I think the internet, changed a lot of things, but I also knew starting out, and I kind of bring this up with younger kids too, I need you, whether you're ever going to work at the WWE or not. They still have the largest show of the year in WrestleMania for wrestling. We could get down to statistics on the Wembley shows. We could get down, but WrestleMania is what the mainstream idea of the largest show is. If you have a name that you don't think could be put up in spectacle, in lights, in fireworks at a WrestleMania stadium show that would look like it's supposed to be there, you're not named correctly. And so there are a lot of guys with complicated names, complicated nicknames, names that I have to ask them, how do I actually pronounce this? I've never seen the spelling. And I want to always have the mindset of, I should be positioning myself, whether I'm there or not, as something that can be iconic, as something that can be easily identified. And just 4 letters, EFFY. And it's something that like kind of rolls off the tongue. To me, it was like, if it does get big, it makes sense. But if it doesn't, I still have like a lot of thought in the name of what I want to do with it.
Okay. One busy back to you, bro.
So I know you mostly from GCW, and you've been very fortunate to be one-time GCW Tag Champion, and you are currently, last time I checked, 250 days, if I'm correct, as the GCW World Champion as of recording this right now. What was it like winning the world title?
It's one of those things that, like, you know, if I gave you the full story, when they tell you early in your career, they're like, when you're at your peak, you're also going to be like at your low. And that night in particular was like, I'll put it to you this way. I was wrestling that summer at MV Young, his promotion in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 880 Brewing. And I was outside, and they came up to me right after my match at this brewery, some wrestlers, and they said, they shot Donald Trump. And I went, oh. And then they said, but they missed. And I went, oh. And that to me was the funniest way to find out I was losing my rights in the coming years. And so for then, the night that I win the championship, for it to be 12:30 in the morning, and on the exact day that Donald Trump would be in the presidency again for the second term, I was winning a world championship. On one hand, it's like, okay, this is a sign that we have to continue being punk. And I have to be a representative of the America and of the wrestling and of the people that are not about, you know, this Donald Trump character, the hate that he spews, the bad stuff that's going on. I had some stuff going on in my personal life where, like, if you look at me holding that belt up at the end, and I've got tears in my eyes, I, you know, was not in my right headspace after the situation with Allie, which is, we can talk about that in a minute. The show was going till 12:30 because of all the extra time. The trains were not running anymore. They were not serving food in the venue. You could feel people getting uncomfortable in the building just because it's been too long. And I was waiting on a report from one of my doctor's visits to see whether or not I had something going on, which I did not, thank God. And so, like, in this moment where I'm being crowned, and I've worked in this year-long feud with Mance Warner that's like ripped my hair out of my skull. I have a head tattoo now here from when he put a drill to the side of my head during our strap match. He had burnt me and lit me on fire. I had gone through all of this and, you know, was in a very weird mental place after that much kind of head trauma for the year and the amount of work I'd been doing. And, you know, even people in my life were like, you've been going like a little too hard. So it was like monumental to know, okay, well, I'm winning this championship. But in my head, it was like, once I win the championship, no one cares. They only care about you winning it. My life isn't going great right now. Now my tag partner and former friend, you know, I'm sure we would have worked through it, has a broken leg, and people think we had to change it on the fly, and I wasn't supposed to win it all anyway. It was just like, it was a tough time in that January period. And now to be, you know, I guess that's January 20th. So this is, so probably, what is that? Almost 10 months exactly from when I won the belt, you know, that I'm going to be defending it again this weekend at American Dream in the second biggest mall in the, you know, regular United States, which it's very good to look back and go, okay, you know, this was hard. The championship has been hard. But I also think like things have gotten better, and it's good to know, okay, I can look back on this now with the excitement of winning that championship. But if I think of myself in that day, in that moment, I mean, there was a time at about 9:45 p.m. where I said, you know, my brain is not here right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm supposed to have a match. You know, with everything else going on top of that, it was just like, it was a very rough day. And so even, you know, after, this is where I'm going to sound like a dick a little bit, even after where, you know, I was sending people down to get Allie's merch. I was supposed to drop a shirt right after I won the belt online. And with Allie's injury, I was like, I absolutely can't do this. You know, I need to be sharing the GoFundMe. I need my friend to get the help they need right now. But like, when you win a championship and you can't even drop your own shirt because things have happened that are outside of their, you know, of this situation that are in any of our control. It was a little bit of a bummer, but I think coming out of that, it gave me the motivation to go, okay, what can I do with this belt? And I think back to like, there was a period where Samoa Joe, I think, had one of the Ring of Honor belts, and he was going around the indies just defending it. And it was crazy. Like, it was crazy. This is like 06, 07, maybe a little even before. I don't know. I wanted to do the same thing where, yes, I'm GCW champion. Yes, I'm defending this belt at GCW, but like, let's make a statement across the indies where, you know, the IWTV belt is the Independent Wrestling Championship, but it's defended at like 2 places. No offense to anybody there. I see belts at WWE or AEW that are defended amongst 3 or 4 people throughout the entire year. You know, that doesn't seem like a big enough pool to count for anything. And, you know, someone I've been really inspired by this year is Mercedes. Mercedes has done a thing where she has gone and won these belts at all these places. People are like, oh, she's just winning all these belts. Let me tell you what happens when you win a belt. Eventually, you do have to lose a belt, and it benefits people greatly. And to put the eye on these promotions where people had not looked before, to put the eye on these performers to say, you're the number 1 wrestler in the world, number 1 women's wrestler in the world. And I would say probably number 1 wrestler in the world if you look at the championships, if you look at the lineage and the wins. But it's also even more impressive because she is doing it at all of these different states, at all of these different places, globally, with all of these different people that she's against. So when you say who's the best, and I look at a list of who Mercedes has faced, and it is a very long list for very many belts, I want to have that same vibe of, oh, well, who did Effy beat? Well, Effy beat this entire crazy list and variety of opponents, which I like. I put the list out when it was, I think, at 36 or 37, you know, wins. Since then, I've gotten a win over Shotzi Blackheart. I've, you know, had a match thrown out with Ricky Morton, and he ended up joining my team. And then I have a victory over Danhausen after that. Saturday will be my 40th defense of the title this year. And there was a point where I was defending the belt if you divided out the defenses over the time every 7 days. And that to me is a world championship. To say you have to ask permission from your boss to come fight me, I don't have to ask permission from anyone to put my belt on the line. I would have promoters say, well, what's Brett going to think, or what's GCW going to think if we put the belt on the line? And I said, they have full confidence in me that if I'm putting my belt on the line here, I know what I'm doing, and that it is going to bring. Some people would say, oh, well, you're going to come in and beat somebody and then you leave the champion. But I'm also going in to have matches with people to highlight who they are, to showcase who they are, to showcase the skills that maybe other people aren't seeing out of them, and to go in and have those matches with people, you know, like Ricky Morton, who's been in the business for 50 years, and then someone like a Dylan McQueen, who has been in the business a few years and has had championships, but now I can put them on this world championship. To have my first defense of the title after Hammerstein be in France against Connor Mills, to have my second defense of the title be in London, England against Cara Noir at Progress. This is now a real world title that's been defended in France and England and Canada and Japan and the United States. And I want to defend it more places. But I also, I know having a belt like this doesn't matter unless you make it matter. And so I wanted to make it matter by saying, yeah, I've defended this at 15 different companies this year. Yeah, I've defended this 40 times this year. And you can look at Effy, and Effy is not defined by having a belt, but it also makes that belt even stronger when it's defended in all these places, under all these circumstances, under all these conditions, with all these competitors, to say the next person who takes this belt from me, you've got a lot to live up to. And if you think you're just going to defend the belt once a month at a GCW show, that's not the workload that we put into the GCW belt. And to be honest, I still have not cleared as many defenses as Blake Christian had. Blake Christian, who's now with Ring of Honor, with AEW, had a lot of defenses of the belt. And I think I'm close. And I think I did it in less time. But I have not crossed that threshold. And I want to continue defending this belt everywhere I can, because to me, it is frustrating to open a PWI and go to the back where it says independent wrestling listing, and it's just the IWTV list, where you see Ring of Honor listed, you see AEW, you see WWE listed, and you see independent wrestling. And it's just the IWTV people, which I wrestle plenty on IWTV. I wrestle plenty on Fight. I wrestle plenty on High Spots. I wrestle plenty on YouTube. It's very disingenuous to say this is the number one independent wrestler to an audience, when the fact is their records couldn't touch me. Their schedules couldn't touch me. And I've never been under a cable TV contract at any point in my career. And yet everywhere I go, every place I've been, people already know who I am. So it's not that I have a necessarily a chip on my shoulder, but I also want to go, it's absurd that you think this way, and I will show you why it's absurd. And if you want to keep doing it this way and ignoring what's actually going on here with a real defensible world champion, then that's fine. I'm just going to keep showing you, and I'll point it out to everyone that asked me about it.
Great answer. Absolute great answer.
I'm a passionate champion.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm just looking, obviously, at people who's hold the title. I mean, you've got Nick Gage, you've got John Moxley, you've got Blake, obviously, you mentioned. You've got yourself, you've got Mance, Joey Janela. I mean, that's an impressive list, you know what I mean?
Marsha.
Yeah, Marsha, do you know what I mean? There's some incredible people who's held the title, and you're part of that.
Yeah, and I think if you look, right now, Charles Mason and Atticus Cogar have kind of had a thing going on where they both want to come after me. And Atticus does have a point where, yes, GCW is built on deathmatch. GCW is originating as a deathmatch company. It was born from fractures of other deathmatch companies. But since then, we've become a global brand. And no offense to anybody else, and I talked about this a little on my podcast, I think there's some poor financial management in indie wrestling. I think that's an understatement. I think there's a lot of guys who are under contract places that indie places want to bring them in, and they've never made any money back on them, and they've lost significant amount of money bringing them in. There are a lot of companies who have tried to be GCW and go on the road, go all over the world, go to these places, and it hasn't worked out as well because we are dedicated 100% to what we're doing. And we also know when ideas are bad or when people are just trying to use us to get over, which has happened before. It's a new kind of horizon for what wrestling should be. And I think that, like, when you hold a belt like that, and when you're moving us from being a deathmatch company to a company that also features deathmatch, that also features lucha libre, hardcore wrestling, high flying wrestling, house wrestling, blood sport wrestling, big gay brunch wrestling, there's such a variety that GCW is putting on that I can't just be your deathmatch champion like Kogar wants. I can't just be a bloodhound like Mason wants. If I want our company to continue rising and continue being a great company, and you look every few years, people say, oh, well, TNA is the number 3 company. And then they go off and book like dog shit and people stop watching. GCW is the number 3 company. If you really look at who's come through the doors and you look at the forbidden door nature of things, because there are matches that have happened to GCW that they could possibly make happen, but in no way in the timelines could they have made it happen. And so, yes, I have to be versed in all styles of wrestling. I have to be ready for any kind of match. And when you're a GCW champion, you have to be ready for all of those things. And so if perchance somebody does beat me for this belt, I hope they're ready to not only be good at deathmatch wrestling, but be ready for any style of opponent that comes across. I mean, I fought Super Crazy from ECW. That was one of the craziest hardcore lucha matches of my life. And I don't think a lot of guys could keep up in those situations. But I can tell you, as GCW champion and as Effy, I've not faced a single opponent in my career, win or lose, that I haven't been somewhat prepared for or had a plan for. And I think if you're just coming at this saying, we're going to bring GCW back to the bloody ages, we're going to bring it back to deathmatch only, we're going to bring it back to spilling gallons of blood to prove ourselves, well, good for you, but that's not going to get you out of every situation.
Okay. One breezy back to you, bro.
So you mentioned, obviously, the Effy, the Big Gay Brunch. How did that come about, and what does that mean to you for like the representation?
So I have to I'm going to give you the full story here because it's honestly one of the craziest stories in wrestling. In 2015, when WrestleMania was in Orlando, Joey Janela had his first spring break, I think. 2015, 2016, maybe? 2016, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Pero, who you may know from Effys Big Gay Brunch and other things in Japan and GCW, Pero was working security that weekend for the Evolve team with the WWN network with Gabe Sapolsky, who was hosting Joey Janela's Spring Break 1. And Pero snuck me into that show without a ticket.
2017.
So I was 2017. Okay, so I was there with Pero 2017 when that occurred, and He snuck me into the very first spring break. And I saw this, and it was the first time in my life I'd ever gone, they recognize that wrestling is not just a thing. Wrestling is silly. Wrestling is stupid. Wrestling is serious. Wrestling is violent. Wrestling is Dan Severn's out here for some reason. And there was this vibe of sort of like a party versus it just being a wrestling show. And I kind of think about like a lot of the gay events that were going on before the brunch. There were a few, and there was either problems with funding where nobody was getting paid, or it felt like a reverence ceremony where we were like, look at us, look what we've done. We're allowed to be here. Look what we can do. And that's beautiful. But what I wanted to bring was this party atmosphere. The way it felt like the first time somebody brought you to a gay club and you saw a drag queen and there's a guy in the corner doing poppers and there's an older couple trying to buy you drinks and get you out of there. And it just feels chaotic and unpredictable and wild, because when you have these safe spaces for LGBTQ people and they're allowed to be themselves and they don't have to mute themselves and fit into proper heteronormative society, it is so much fun. And I wanted fans of wrestling to go, oh, maybe our thoughts of what, you know, gay wrestling was a little too nice or a little too polite, a little too clean. Maybe it's okay to boo somebody, not because they're gay or lesbian or trans or bi, but because they're actually just evil in pro wrestling. And we've set a standard where like those things aren't going to come into play as being a reason to hate someone. And I wanted to do this show that was like a spectacle more than just a wrestling show. And obviously, talking with Brett when I was first thinking about setting it up, Brett said, and this, I think wrestling fans love to hear this. He said, Effy, that's great, but this is GCW. The wrestling has to be good as fuck. And I said, I agree. And so to be able to put the event on, now the first time the event happened was supposed to be in 2020, and we got shut down because of COVID. It's supposed to be in Tampa, it's supposed to be huge. During that time, what's really crazy, a guy kept calling it death threats on me, saying he was going to show up to the brunch, he was going to shoot me in person, he was going to bomb the event, and they ended up having like detectives go after it. And this guy was very mad because at one point I had said, Effy had said, if you come to my show and you're homophobic or transphobic or racist or ableist, I'm going to not only kick you out, I'm going to beat you in the streets until the blood flows, right? And so I'm talking to this detective in Florida, and he's like, listen, we got to talk to you. And I said, oh, I'm really, sorry about what I said if that was too much. He goes, no. You're a character. What you say is in character. So these threats that this person thinks he's getting, that you're going to, I guess if he comes to your gay show, he's going to get beat up for being homophobic. And that's why he's threatening back. His threats are real. Yours are of a fictitious nature. And I said, wonderful. So everything I say from here on out is in character and cannot be used against me in a court of law. That event was canceled because of the COVID. We ended up doing the first Big Gay Brunch in Indianapolis, Indiana, in one of the straightest looking buildings I've ever seen. I remember the pre-show speech. I was like, guys, this building looks so heterosexual. We have to really gay it up to get this. And to be able to kind of see from then where we've done technically 10 events in the US, 11 if you include the 2-hour Fight Forever block on the 24-hour GCW show, and then 3 Big Gay Brunches in the UK, which I actually think is 4 because the second one was 2 nights. So that's 2 separate events. We're looking at about 15 of these events that I've been able to book queer talent for, that I've been able to put people in the position where they can succeed, put people in a position where they can showcase who they really are, continually find new talent, and to see the people that have been on Big Gay Brunches and to see what they've kind of gone on to do, to see the changes in the industry, to see things that have shifted. It's really magical and awesome. And I was even at a point after the Philly one, which was 2 years ago, where I was like, I think we're good. Like, I think we got the point across. I was exhausted at that point. I was wrestling so much. I said, I just need a break. It's emotionally exhausting too, when these people who are LGBTQ plus are coming into the industry. You know how hard it is. I obviously have some privilege. I'm a tall white guy. I get it at the end of the day. I can be a gay man. I can be a sexual minority. I'm a tall white guy. I have privilege. So I kind of realized when Trump started getting back over again, I said, I guess we can never stop doing this until it's actually really good. I've joked that the point of Effy is to not need Effy. And clearly with the situation, where it is now for trans rights, for gay rights, they were considering overturning gay marriage. It got to the Supreme Court. That's crazy to me. I said, we've got to keep doing this, and we've got to keep doing this as punk rock as possible. And so now to see what the event has become, to see, you know, kind of how much excitement there is every year for people to get to come to big gay brunches, to get to do them in different places in the world. It's really cool to see. And I think, like, no matter what happens in my wrestling career, you know, this is something that I think I can continue building on outside of being an in-ring performer. And, you know, I hope that one day somebody can win a ladder match, you know, to the rights of Effy's Big Gay Brunch and take it over and make it another big thing. But for now, I think I'm still the best person suited to continue running these shows and do, you know, the right thing for my community and kind of try to keep showcasing underserved talent who are, you know, just as, if not more talented than a lot of the people that get chances or tryouts out there. And to get to put them in a position where they're telling stories that other people could not tell. They are getting audience members to come that other people could not draw. And they are creating wrestling fans out of people who would have never expected it by providing something that looks more like them and looks more like, you know, the people they see in the real world, rather than just being these G.I. Joe figures of white guys, you know, doing the same thing over and over. My roommate doesn't watch any wrestling, and we were watching a few shows at one of the big gay brunches in Chicago, and people kept having match contracts or you know, pieces of paper they had to refer to in their storyline. And he said, I'm pretty sure I've never seen this many people motivated by paperwork, but if that's what they want to, you know, base their stories on, then okay, more power to them. And it kind of makes you think, like, there's a lot of tropes in wrestling that are there out of pure laziness. There's nothing interesting to anyone about a document or what the document says, but we've taken that in wrestling and made it that that's a thing we expect. We expect the contract signing. We expect these things. And that's how you can tell wrestling is made by straight white guys, because the only conflict they've ever had is being mad about signing the divorce contract or signing for a mortgage. And to have queer voices come in and go, there's way more motivating factors to why we would be fighting than a contract that says we have to or a contract that says we can't. That to me leads to way more interesting stories. And so I hope the Big Gay Brunch can just like continue to grow and continue to be a big thing. I know one of the major weaknesses of Big Gay Brunch is that I'm a full-time professional wrestler. I am constantly wrestling. There's not an off time where I'm like, all right, now we book the brunch and we do it. It's like a constant nonstop thing. And then also remembering, like, for as important as it is still a wrestling show, and kind of explaining to some of these kids, if you're not on it this time, if you're not booked this time, it's not the end of the world. It is still just a wrestling show, but it is fascinating to me to see how much emotion people have towards it. Because for me, it was just an idea to go, I think gay shows should be more fun. I think there should be more gay wrestling. And the stubbornness that I have, you know, that kind of guides everything has led us, you know, here where we're returning to Las Vegas for Big Gay Brunch 11 at the Horseshoe Casino. We've combined WrestleCon with the collective now. You know, the problem last year is you're a $20 Uber going back and forth between going to the signings, going to the events there, going to the shows at our place. With everything in-house now, I think it gives us an even bigger opportunity to put some dream matches on for some LGBTQ talent, to bring in some unexpected people, and to have some participation from outside of our little community to help the show grow. And I think it's going to be the biggest one yet. I'm very excited.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely, man. So let's obviously talk about Allie Katch and stuff like that. How did it obviously begin, you two obviously working together?
Wait, repeat that?
Sorry. So yeah, I'll begin obviously you working with Allie Katch.
Yes. We got thrown together, oddly enough, because nobody knew what to do with either of us. And, you know, I hope at this point, we tagged a few weeks ago at First Wrestling. It was very good, but I have always been so impressed by Allie in her training, in her go-get-itness, in her appreciation for understanding wrestling structure, match structure, and getting to tag with her. I think it was wonderful for her because I'm a very fun, open person and we have a great time together. But it was very good for me because she would help a lot with structuring things. She would help a lot with making things make sense and not just going, okay, well, whatever, just do that there if you want, but holding us accountable to having tag matches that made sense, having matches that flowed the right way and built the tension the right way. And so to see her now coming back from this injury, which I just want to be clear, I watched the footage a lot because, you know, she broke her leg on a dive in our match. She turned her back on me after a while, you know, last year, and we had that match, and we really didn't even get into the match. But when she dives, I catch, I go down, her leg hits the mat and the mat twists, which is what broke her leg. And what's funny about this is that the New York State Athletic Commission, which still has a hold heavily over professional wrestling, which is why we can't bleed at Hammerstein, which is why we can't bleed at the Melrose Ballroom, which is difficult, but they're great venues to run at. They require that these pads be on the floor. They require that these pads be set up. Well, the way the pad is set up, when she touched it with her rubber boot, it hooked to the pad and it was not hooked enough to the floor. So them having those pads there is why that injury happened. The New York State Athletic Commission is fully liable for forcing this safety precaution in a predetermined event. I'm sorry to say it, because they don't understand pro wrestling and they are greedy and want the money. They want percentage of ticket sales. They want me to pay for a license. They want me to pay for a doctor. They want me to pay for EMTs and paramedics. They want us to pay to buy extra safety equipment. And when that safety equipment is the cause of the problem, because it's not normal territory, it's not what we were used to, and it wasn't, put the right way with the paramedic people, whatever. It's very hard to think that they have any of our good interests at heart. Not only does it stop the show for her to even be taken out with the paramedics, you cannot even continue a wrestling show if the paramedics aren't inside. Their safety precautions are what put her out for a while. But I also think, I wish it wasn't an injury. I think taking that time a little bit away from wrestling has helped her create this fire, refocus in an insane way. And right now, I see her on the cusp of being on television, of being signed somewhere. She's been working with a lot of schools in New York and New Jersey, getting back, bringing new tricks, increasing speeds, and doing harder moves, cooler things. And I also think there is a bit of a stain on Effy, and it doesn't hurt Effy. I've made my choice. Listen, I don't like the WWE and their dealings with Saudi Arabia. I don't like them bringing back someone who's named in a rape lawsuit in Brock Lesnar. I don't like AEW talent hoarding and the amount of people that are not on TV right now who are under contract but who haven't wrestled an entire match, in months. I look at Ricky Starks or Ricky Saints at the time, 13 months under contract without a match. Pretty crazy to get mad at Effy when people bring that up. I know my path. I know where I'm going. The last time I met with a TNA official, I introduced myself and then started telling him how bad some of the booking was. So I know where I stand, and I make my own bet. I'm holding my cards, right? And if my cards are correct, then good. I'm going to be fine. But I don't want my strong opinions. I don't want my offensiveness. I don't want, whatever they don't like about me, be it how free I am, how much fun I'm having, how many good matches I'm having, how I'm allowed to say no, whatever it is they don't like about me, I don't want that to rub off on her because her dreams are different than mine. And I've tried to be polite about it, over the course of our tagging as Bussy, which was very successful. GCW tag champs, freelance tag champs. We really had a great run together, but I'm also going, I need to step back and away from Allie if I love her as much as I say I do, because there is a higher percentage chance that she is going to get seen and brought in, and they're not going to go, but what about Effy? Or what about the fact that she's in a tag team called Butthole Pussy? I want her to be able to make decisions and have parts of her career that aren't necessarily wrapped up in how I'm kind of a time bomb for a lot of people. And I want her to come back from this injury and feel as confident as possible. And I get it. It's beneficial to be with Effy sometimes, but it can weigh you down too. And I understand, but I'm not going to stop being Effy. And so I have to ask her to listen, you got to make your own path here. And I see her doing that, and I'm very proud of her, but I hope that work pays off because she is an incredible talent. She's made me a better talent, and getting to tag with her has been an absolute pleasure. But I also think as a single star or in another tag team or doing something else, she can make a lot of money in professional wrestling. And if I'm anything that's holding her back from that, I want to make sure that I'm out of the way.
Wow, what an answer. One breezy, back to you, bro.
So there was a very passionate video that came out this year. You faced Dark Sheik, if I said the name right. What did that match mean to you as a performer, or just the emotion after that match with that promo?
The funniest thing of the whole thing was, I love Joey Janela. We've become very good friends over the years. He's someone I continually still look up to. We've been through ups and downs together. We've had matches together. And he came to me right after the gay brunch in Las Vegas where the speech took place, after the match against Sheik. And he said, man, I feel really bad. I was up so late. You know, they had spring break the night before with Sabu. And I said, bro, you're fine. Like, you've had a crazy weekend. And he said, but I walk into the building and it's the end of the match and you're yelling about how we have to end the Nazis and send them back into hiding. And he said, this sounds like my kind of show. And I said, hell yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad the passion came across. I'm typically known for doing short promos at the end of the Big Gay Brunches. And I've done a few. I did one in Los Angeles where I'm just covered in blood on top of a ladder yelling, and it's incredible. I don't ever plan these, but I have a real, like, the softest place in my heart for Dark Sheik. She is the founder of Hood Slam. They're now calling themselves Slam Town. They just did a whole new build. She is the first promoter to ever put Effy on a plane, which is insane. First to fly me out and book me. And she's someone who has very different beliefs than me in some aspects of wrestling, where I think we can softly move people into accepting us, to joining us, to being behind our cause. And she's very, if you don't like it, fuck you. And I admire that so much about Dark Sheik, because she has had a 20-year career in professional wrestling. She has continually run her own promotion, done things by her own rules, and said, listen, if you're down with what we're doing, great. Our shows are sold out every week. If you're not down with what we're doing, I don't care. She's had a great run in GCW. I think she'll be back for some more dates. But that match made sense to me for the world title, to have two of the biggest pioneers of LGBTQ wrestling facing off. And I didn't want to fight my friend, but I had to kind of let her know after that, listen, you're someone who I look up to. You're someone I care about. But also saying to our audiences, these rooms are great for this, for gay wrestling, for acceptance, for cheering on all these people. None of us are going to walk out of this room and deal with that same reality with the grand public. And so I want to be able to say, listen, not only do I look up to you and support you, I also want people to know, in those times where people are terrible, where we live in a country run by Donald Trump, full of transphobes, full of hateful people, full of people who are backwards and racist and don't know anything they're talking about, when we leave this room, we have to bring that power with us and continue to protect our friends around us who are treated unfairly, to look out for them and to correct people's behaviors when we see it, especially when you have big boy privilege. Although I have seen Dark Sheik take a guy out for being transphobic in Las Vegas. She gave him a side swipe kick to the head, and they tried to arrest her for, I think they said, what did they say? Assault and battery. And she said, well, it's one kick. It can't be assault and battery. It just has to be assault. And they ended up just letting her go. But she's not defenseless. But I also want people to know that, like, we have to look out for our people now. We have to care about our people now. And for as much as my name is all over the event, and my name is all over it, and my face is all over it, Effy's Big Gay Brunch, the foundations of that event are built on so many other wrestlers and showcasing what they can do. And to get to face a friend like Dark Sheik in the main event for the World Championship, I think is historic, but it also was very rewarding to me as a performer.
I like that. Couldn't put it better myself. But
Absolutely.
It's just nice to see your relationship with her.
Oh yeah. It's but yeah, I mean, it's I also I don't know what I'm going to say at the end of these brunches, but I usually let the day kind of fill me in on what needs to be said and done. And you know, it was a beautiful, fun, awesome show, but also, like, it's good to remind people on the way out the door, you know, shit is still fucked up out here. Look out for each other.
100%, man. Well, for you.
Absolutely. So, what's some of the biggest challenges you've faced throughout your whole career?
Shutting my mouth, if I'm going to be honest. You know, people often ask me, you know, is it hard being gay? Is it hard being this? Is it hard being that? I think I'm a confident enough person, and I refer to myself as like a complete person. I'm not second guessing a lot of what I'm doing, but I have learned in the past that, like, being right isn't always the best thing to be. I can be correct when I call somebody out on something. And what a lot of people don't understand is, like, if I bring something up, and this is a bigger point of wrestling, I think it's all connected, obviously. When wrestling is doing good, all of wrestling does good. It's one of the only places where trickle-down economics actually works, where when these shows are drawing big up here, then people want to go to indie shows. People want to see these superstars elsewhere. People want to see everything glowing up. So when I have problems with wrestling, and I speak pretty plainly about it, a lot of people take it as emotional or personal attacks, when really what I'm saying is, hey, if you have a platform like a cable television show that's the mainstream fix for people that are tuning in, if you have a platform where you have the money to pay these people to do this kind of stuff and do this kind of work, if you're not doing it correctly, I'm at least going to point it out. And I've found in the past that like pointing some of these things out has been very beneficial. A lot of people didn't know, certain things I was saying, but it's also a small knit industry where people go, okay, if this guy is going to say something about our stuff, we have to tear him down a little bit to make sure what he's saying doesn't matter. Or if this guy is going to, cost us money by doing something on an indie show that we don't like, and make us change our approach or do something different, we're going to have to shut it down a little bit. And I just wanted to make sure that my words were not hurting other people, because there were people getting fired from companies after issues that I had. There were people getting let go from companies after issues that I had. And I've never been punished for speaking the truth about things, but I've seen things altered because of things I've said. And whether they want to acknowledge me or not is fine. But I think the biggest challenge now has been, you might be correct, but publicly going on and saying it to everyone may not be the best way around it, even though it's kind of the quickest way to get the information out, because I don't want other people to be caught in the crossfire. You know what I mean? I don't even want to bring up, all the issues now, but like there was a big gay brunch where someone got fired the day of the brunch and they were on my show. And I said, this is a little suspect. And, that person was emotional. That person was dealing with being fired from their job on a day where they're supposed to go out and perform wrestling and entertain. It's hard to say it wasn't my fault. And it's hard to say it wasn't, something that they were trying to get back at me at for. But I have to just decide, like, when I speak my mind now, it's going to go out there. People are going to see it. People do follow me. And if other people can't get hurt in it, I don't care if you hate me. But if other people are going to lose money or be financially hurt because I'm doing this and they're the only people they can have consequences over, I don't want that to happen. So just learning to be a little more, keep it to myself, but really, like, it hasn't been going well so far. Usually I just speak my mind and I can't help it. And I've tried to protect all of you. And most of the time, nobody's angry about it. And, there's other factors at play too, but it is kind of odd to be in the position I'm in where, like I've said, I've never been under contract. I've never had a tryout. I've never been on a dark match. I've never done these things. And to know that, like, when I speak and it goes into the internet, it can cause real world problems where $1 billion companies have to hold meetings because of things I've said or done.
Wow. Crazy. Okay. Well, I'm reading back to you, bro.
I mean, you've also been very fortunate to come over to the UK and deliver some brunches and work quite a lot with TNT. What's that been like for yourself?
Liverpool is crazy. Where do you guys live in England? You don't have to be exact.
Best place to say it. Lincolnshire.
Lincolnshire. All right. I don't know where that is. Either
South
way,
Yorkshire.
It's Liverpool is a strange place, and it very much fits into that party vibe of the gay brunch. And they have been wonderful in accommodating me and making it work and getting to work, for Progress in the UK, for North in the UK, for TNT in the UK. It's when I started going to the UK, it was a harder scene for the UK. And I think we had been through speaking out. We had been through getting some guys out of there who were not behaving very well, and kind of rebuilding that scene there and coming in, having people already know me. As dumb as it sounds, I'm kind of doing the same thing where I'm coming in and trying to highlight these talent to where when I leave England in a few days, you're still going to know about these talent that were on this show. And you're still going to be able to see these people that were on this show. And next year, I think will be the fourth. I guess it's, legally the fourth Big Gay Brunch. And we are returning to Liverpool in September to do another Big Gay Brunch UK in England. I'm very excited already. It's magic to kind of watch the scene growing back. I think you guys can see it as well as I have, that the amount of arena shows and stadium shows and bigger indie shows and indie shows happening at places, you know, people wouldn't expect. I just saw TNT do the Liverpool Comic-Con. And so seeing this kind of growth again in UK wrestling is really inspiring because for me starting out, I was looking to the UK scene. I was looking to the guys at Progress. I was looking to these crazy matches at OTT at, you know, where is that? Attack was doing some great stuff. There's so many companies that are rebuilding and reforming now. Eve, I think right now is doing incredible stuff. Will Ospreay's been in there with Windsor, kind of rebuilding things and agenting and getting really, really good shows, you know, with global talent, but especially with a lot of the UK talent that's been brimming up, you know, Sapphire and Nita Vaughn, Rio. There's so many really good Lena Cross, Sky Smith. Well, Lena Cross is Australian, but she's been around. There's a lot of talent in the UK now, and so like when I go, I'm excited they want to see me, but I also am so excited to get to see what the UK talent is doing, get to share that with people who are following me, and get to get in the ring with some of them. You know, Charles Crowley, someone I wanted to get in the ring with for a long time, and I got to have a match with him at Big Gay Brunch where I suggested doing a Hulk up spot where I sniff poppers, which are a gay recreational drug. I spilt the poppers during the match, so both of us ended up smelling the poppers. And there's a slap fight that happens after that is pretty incredible. But to get to do that match at a Big Gay Brunch where it's like all rules are off, we know it's going to be crazy, we know it's going to be over the top. Getting to work with Tate Mayfair, for as much as a twat as he is, he's someone who takes wrestling very seriously, and I think that's absolutely refreshing. I just want to keep making sure when I'm going to the UK that it's being used for the right reasons. And I think like as the scene continues to grow, maybe there'll be less use for me to come over there, but I also like getting in the ring with all of these new talent. I'm learning stuff all the time. You never stop learning in wrestling. And I love Liverpool just as a city. Like it's a city that never sleeps. It parties. It is gay. It is wild. And to get to do shows there and then go out in Liverpool, it is magic.
Awesome. How are we feeling?
Absolutely, sir. I'm still laughing at that answer. Sorry. Dear. John, do you want to go to a question? Because I need to compose myself in a minute.
Who's your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling?
Ooh, okay. Dusty Rhodes, Terry Funk, Lita, John Cena.
I can see your reason for every single one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
I'm a really big Lita fan. And we ended up becoming friends. She has a house here in Atlanta, and getting to like go hang out with Lita and then also being like, my partner at the time, we went to Lita's birthday party. I don't want to like give away too much, but we went to Lita's birthday party and he doesn't know anything about wrestling. So he keeps going, why does she have 1 million followers? And I'm going, babe, she's one of the best professional wrestlers that's ever existed. And I think if you're looking at wrestling style in Lita, there's an unabashed go for it that like Jeff Hardy has a little bit of, but I think he's even a little more like thinking than people think, where Lita would just like go crazy, go for it. She'd get in there with the guys. She'd get in there with the girls. She was her own style. She did not fit the mold of the divas at the time. She inspired so much of what I see, you know, in women's wrestling today. And it was just like, she was always the coolest person in the room. And so for me, like to exclude kind of women's wrestling from your Mount Rushmore is one thing, but to exclude, like, she was a punk rock icon on top of being an incredible professional wrestler, on top of being someone who dealt with so much shit during her career and so much politicking and so much stuff that should have sent her on, you know, to another career path like a lot of the girls did. And she stuck it out. And to, you know, I got to do some training with her before her last WrestleMania match where she was teaming up with Trish. And to get to play any minor role in that was just like the coolest thing possible.
Awesome, man. Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, I want to talk a bit about social media, obviously in wrestling, because it's got its good points, it's got its bad points. What's your overall opinion when it comes to social media in wrestling?
So for a long time, they would call me a Twitter wrestler or an internet wrestler, and it didn't ever make sense to me because, like, I get it. I'm, like, I'm popular on Twitter or whatever, but people who are on social media are people. So to me, being over with internet people, it's just people. And so, like, it just seemed like at the time when the social media was really taking off, when it was going big, when you could get a little more interaction on some of these social media sites, or it wasn't as full of bots and things. It absolutely built a career for me because I was able to share stuff to people to where I don't have a guaranteed distribution system. When I put it out, it's not like putting it on cable TV and there's a million viewers. But if what you're putting out on social media is good or interesting or funny or engaging, you could get over with people and people would be willing to share that and showcase that with people. And so for me, when people are like, oh, you're only over with people on the internet. Well, how do you do that? By making stuff that's interesting to people on the internet. And why are people on the internet? Because they're people. People are just on the internet. It helped me find more shows. It helped me get seen as a performer. It helped me get linked up with a lot more people who were running wrestling shows, who could see what I could bring in for their shows, because I'm still providing a service. I want to sell tickets for your show when you book me. I want to be someone who, when you bring me in to wrestle and pay me, you can make money too. We can do this. To have that social media backing where people who would have never been able to see us, the old hierarchy makes sense in wrestling when you realize there was no other way to be seen than sending in a VHS tape and hoping they put you on a dark match and hoping they liked you. Otherwise, no one's going to see you wrestle. But now people are getting to see me wrestle just because they've logged onto a website and other people have enjoyed it, or they've, logged onto their social media and this is something people are talking about. It's kind of like, it's irreplaceable as far as, what it's gotten us to so far, but it's also something where, like, there's too much being shared on there. Or I always, not to turn this into a seminar, but when I do seminars, I talk about the concept of a follower. And I think the word itself has fucked up a lot of us, because if I'm following you, you're thinking these are my followers, like the followers of Christ. But the fact is, people are following thousands and thousands of accounts. We are all following each other. We are all followers. And so the idea that we have to overshare everything on the social media, or that everybody's going to take our side on something if we're complaining about it. I saw something recently, about a lot of drama on a dark match with some people on AEW. And the more people kept speaking and sharing about it, the more you realize they should just shut the fuck up. And the idea that you're speaking to your followers really messes up some of these people's content, because they think everyone's going to be on my side. They follow me, when in reality, we're just keeping up with everything. It's something that we have to acknowledge as performers, to say, I have to choose what I'm putting out into the world. If your tweet is, hey, I've got a huge title match this weekend, I've been working so hard, it's going to be great. And then your next tweet is like, damn, Gina cheated on me again, she's such a bitch. Well, it kind of negates me caring about the match at all, when I'm going, well, maybe Gina's right, or maybe you're not sharing everything there. But thinking that your audience has to hear everything about you, it makes you susceptible to being easily mutable, as I say. Not everyone who follows you wants to know everything they follow you about. I think about the reason they followed me. They probably saw me on a wrestling show. They saw me do a video. They saw me pop up in a picture. If I'm not providing that same content, then why are they following me? And so just choosing what we are using social media for, I think, is the next step in figuring out, how to actually use it again to get back into promoting wrestling. Because it's very hard when you log on and you see someone's promo video, and then everybody on the timeline is talking about some internal drama because somebody shared something and somebody's subtweeting somebody. That, to me, hurts the business and doesn't make us look like, we're humans. I get it. But when you come to a wrestling show, when I go to a wrestling show, I want to see larger than life. I want to see people who are not dealing with human problems that I'm dealing with, that are not, complaining that their muffler broke down again and they're stuck. And if I don't get $20, I'm never going to. It's a choice of being a personal social media account to share with friends, and it being a professional thing where you can use this to benefit yourself. But if you overuse this, the people are going to lose faith in what they're following.
Great answer. One breezy, back to you, bro.
So as we come close to wrapping this up, Effy, and I'm one of them, I like to be in, inspirational. So the world's full of bad, good, the ugly. Do you know what I mean? So every episode that we do, we like to end it with an inspirational message. What would yours be?
Okay, well, can I steal mine from Matthew McConaughey? Because
You
this
can
has
do anything.
always been. I read a tweet one time where they were like, you know, because I do talk a little trash sometimes, but I believe, and I go to sleep every night knowing that I'm not doing anything that's injuring anyone else. I'm not doing anyone that's breaking anyone else's trust. I'm not using this industry for nefarious reasons. And I know that. I'm the only one that knows that. Matthew McConaughey says that in life, you have a choice, right? Where if you get stabbed in the back, it sucks. You got stabbed in the back, right? Somebody screwed you over. Somebody took an opportunity from you. Somebody went behind your back, whatever that may be. You got stabbed in the back, but it's not anything that you did. This is something someone else did. And that person is going to know they stabbed somebody in the back. And whether they will feel the immense guilt or not, they have to expect something's coming to them all the time. They have to look over their shoulder and worry that someone's going to get them back, that karma's going to catch up, that someone's going to mess them up. And if you get stabbed in the back, it sucks. You got to heal. It could be injuring. It could really tear you up. But every time I'm walking on the path and it hurts in my back, I never have to turn around and wonder who else is coming to get me. If you get me, you got me. But if I turn around, it's not because I'm worried that someone I screwed over, someone I messed up, someone I cheated out of an opportunity or cheated out of a chance is coming to get their revenge on me. If you live like that, you may get attacked, you may get torn down, you may have other people take advantage of you, but you are never going to have to worry about someone else, you know, using what you've already done to them to retaliate. And I know it doesn't sound that inspirational up front, but I sleep well at night. I try to do the best that I can do. I try to put on the best show I can put on. If things come to me, it's great. If things pass me over, that's okay too. But I'm still going to put in my best foot and put in my best effort and continue forward, doing what I can do and not taking those shortcuts that are going to end up, you know, coming back to bite my ass, so to speak, in the end.
I love that.
Great thing to end on. Obviously, as we begin to wind down, mate, is there anything else you'd like to plug?
I have a podcast too. It's called Weekend at Effys. I think it's one of the weirdest wrestling podcasts because it's literally, I come home every week. My roommate does not watch wrestling, only knows about wrestling from me. We talk about the universe. We go over kind of the travels of the weekend. We have over 200 episodes, and we, I don't know. It's very odd that I'm going to be able to look back when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80 years old and have a week-to-week, hour-long conversation of what I was dealing with at the exact time, of what I was going through, of what I was feeling right after these matches, of what I was feeling right after these travels or things that were happening. And we kind of make it a rule that we record no matter what. And so once again, just like This Is Effy, it's like this is Weekend at Effy's. And there are moments and episodes where things aren't great. And there are moments and episodes where things are triumphant. And yes, it's a wrestling podcast technically, but I think it's just more of a life podcast. So I would appreciate if everybody checks that out. EffyLives.com for all the merch, wrestlingisgay for all the gay wrestling merch. And then every Tuesday on Twitch at 8 p.m., I do a show called Indie Top 3. It used to just be wrestling matches. We used to just watch independent wrestling for 3 hours. I used to do it on Monday, but my schedule was messed up. So now on Tuesday, we pick 3 wrestlers every week. We watch an hour of their matches. Tonight, we're only doing women's matches. We've got Seshamoth Martina. We've got Jordan Blade, who's done a great job on Big Gay Brunches on Bloodsport in the U.S. And we've got Lady Luck, who just won the WWE ID Women's Championship at the Beyond Show last night. We're going to show an hour of each of their matches. We do it every Tuesday on twitch.tv/EffyLives. I hang out. I do commentary. We do giveaways. I constantly want to, when I'm not wrestling, still bring the joy of wrestling into people's lives. And so to get to showcase other wrestlers too and watch that much wrestling, listen, you want to talk about tape study? I'm watching 4 hours a week just on the stream. It's a very fun time. That's kind of all I got. I mean, check out GCW. I Am the Champion. Live on Fight TV this Saturday. Mason versus Kogar. The winner will face me in the main event of the show. And I've been told not to do a lot of things at the mall, but since I'm the last match, there's not really shit they can do.
Love it.
Absolutely. All links, obviously, we'll put in the description of the video so people can go and support you and stuff like that. So,
thanks,
One
guys.
Breezy, do you want to wrap it up, pal?
I mean, Effy, you know how long I've been trying to get you on. It's been for as long as my arm. But yeah, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate your time, and probably on behalf of Liam as well. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
And thanks for the good conversation, guys. Great questions. You got me really talking.
Cheers, mate.